Well, hello and welcome to the Adrienne Ross Show, the basketball edition. There's been a lot of conversation over the last couple days about an episode of Gills Arena where Cheryl Swoopes was there and Rashad McCants was there. They got into a conversation about whether or not Caitlin Clark is a dominant player in the WNBA. And I'm noticing a lot of podcasters weighing in on this, and some of them raking Cheryl Swoopes over the coals because here it is again, Cheryl Swoopes seemingly not wanting to give Caitlin Clark the respect that many people believe she deserves. But I'm just going to say this. I'm disappointed with some of y'all. I am absolutely disappointed with some of y'all concerning this conversation. I'm going to tell you why, but first, let's take a little look at how that conversation went. Now, they went on and on and on about whether or not Caitlin Clark is dominant. I ain't got time to play the whole thing, but I just want to play this snippet, and then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to tell you about yourselves. All right, check it out.
If we had a number, if we would have said, when we're talking about dominating with Caitlin Clark, what would those numbers have? What was the numbers?
It would have been a scoring number.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Because of that high clip, shooting it.
Right, right.
We'd have been like,
That's what she did.
Do you consider 20 points per game? So you don't consider 20 points per game?
So if her stats, when we're saying she won't do this in the W, she averaged 31.6, 7.4 rebounds, 9 assists, right? Did anyone expect her to do that in WNBA?
Those three? No.
Right? So she didn't do that.
No.
Now, if we say her stats are today, what?
20 points, 8.4 assists, 6 rebounds.
That's crazy.
But 5
That's crazy.
5.6
those are hell of a number.
Those are hell of a numbers.
Rookie.
But to me, that's not
Period.
dominating.
Yeah, it's only not dominating because she's a rookie.
Now,
If
if
she's putting up numbers like Asia right now, would she be dominating?
yes.
So it's about the numbers.
Yes.
I don't look at the dominating factor being numbers. It's what you're doing on the floor. And those numbers would change if the factors on the floor changes. If you make that layup, the stats change. If you swing, I get a layup, stats change. Things are factors on the floor that we don't get to see because we're glorifying the stat.
Okay. Now, we could probably have a conversation all day about the point that McCants is making there. We could have a long conversation probably all week about the entirety of their conversation about Caitlin Clark, which was much longer than you're seeing right there. But I'm going to tell you this right here. We don't even need to have that conversation because those of you who are engaging in this conversation to the depth that I'm hearing out there, you have what I call, what has been called, I haven't called it, but what has been called shiny object syndrome. You have played right into their hands. Listen, when Caitlin Clark was about to enter the league, there was no conversation about dominance. There was no conversation about, oh my goodness, this girl is so good. She's going to come into this league and she's just gonna dominate. No, there was no conversation about that. And there was no conversation that said the opposite. Oh, she's gonna come into this league. She's going to be so incredibly good. Her numbers are gonna be so incredibly good, but she's not gonna dominate. That wasn't the conversation. What they wanted us to believe was that Caitlin Clark was going to come into the league and she was going to bomb. You take Gino Auriemma, Coach Gino Auriemma, who called Caitlin Clark's fans stupid. He said we were stupid to think that she would even be in the MVP conversation. He said we have set Caitlin Clark up to get the hard fouls that she's getting, to get the treatment that she's getting, because how dare we be so stupid as to think that she could actually compete well in this league. You had people like Diana Taurasi who laughed about it, talking about there are levels to this thing, and you've been playing and looking superhuman against 18-year-olds, but you're about to come up against some grown women. Yeah, it wasn't a conversation about whether or not she was dominant. These people wanted us to believe that she couldn't handle it in the WNBA. That's the conversation. But see, this is the point. This is where they got you distracted. Now they're saying she's not dominating. Now they're saying, yeah, she did X, Y, and Z, but that's not dominating, because now they've got nothing else left but to change the conversation. That's what they do. They show you a little something over here. Don't pay attention to what's going on behind the curtain. Pay attention to what I'm talking about right now, because otherwise I'd have to come to you and say, yeah, we were absolutely wrong. This young woman came in this league, and not only did she compete at this league, but she has over and outdone not only current players in the league, but players who are no longer in the league, the legends of the game. And so what they do now is they switch that. Listen, they're good at it. It's what they do. People who have narratives, who are determined that come hell or high water, they've got to stick with those narratives rather than to say we were wrong. What they do is they get you looking somewhere else, and we're so foolish that we ride along with them and we totally forget the issue is not dominating. Listen, I was an English teacher for nearly 20 years, and they had me looking up dominate. They had me looking at the dictionary. What does dominate mean? No, that's not the deal. What they said was that Caitlin Clark couldn't cut it in this league. And then Sheryl Swoopes went on in this interview to talk about, well, what I never said that she wouldn't do well in this league. I never said that she would. What I said was that she would not be doing the same right away, the same thing that she's done in college. In fact, let's take a listen at what Sheryl Swoopes said, and then let's get right back on point.
Will Caitlin Clark come into the WNBA and do what she's doing right now immediately? Absolutely not.
Indiana has numbers here. Clark looks to take advantage. Clark launches and hits a three.
At Iowa, she did everything. However many shots you want to take, whatever you want to do with the ball, you can do. It's just a different ball game.
Is it though?
So now Sheryl Swoopes is saying, I didn't say that she wouldn't do well. I said that will she be able to do what she did in college right away? And she's maintaining that the answer is no. But that's where Sheryl Swoopes will do everything but just admit the truth. There is no way what Sheryl Swoopes was saying back then when she said absolutely not. Sheryl Swoopes was not saying that Caitlin Clark would take 10 games, 11 games to adjust. No, she was saying that Caitlin Clark was not going to be able to do what she did in college right away. She didn't mean 5 games, 10 games, 15 games. There's no way she was saying, oh yeah, but by the time they get to the Olympic break, Caitlin Clark will be just fine. No, she meant exactly what she said later on in that interview when she talked about Angel Reese. She said Angel Reese, she still believes could be a great scorer, if not next year, then in her 3rd year. That's exactly what she meant about Caitlin Clark. She was not at all saying that Caitlin Clark would adjust in no time. And speaking of that, let's just take a look at what Caitlin Clark has done if it took her so much time to acclimate to the WNBA. I mean, when you look at her scoring, if we're just going to talk about scoring, which we're not, but to start there, Caitlin Clark in preseason was already scoring in the 20s, first preseason game, 21 points. And then in the first month of the WNBA, she had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 20-point plus games, even a 30-piece in the first month of the WNBA. Let's talk about assists for Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. In the first month alone, she had, how many games did she have? Listen, she had a 10 assists within the first, let me see this. No, that's 10 rebounds. She had 10 rebounds, okay? But let's go to assists. She had 9 assists in the first month of WNBA. She had 8 assists in the first month of WNBA. She had 8 assists again in the first month of the WNBA. And she also had others where she had 6 and she had 7. So what was she doing in college? She was scoring in college. She was assisting in college, which is something some people didn't quite get. They thought she was just about shooting the logo 3. No, so you said, Sheryl Swoopes, that she would not be able to do right away what she did, and she was already doing it. She was still assisting the basketball. She was still scoring. She was still shooting threes and scoring points. She was still making everyone around her better. But now you want to pretend that you're saying, oh yeah, I always knew she was going to do that, but it was just going to take her to the Olympic break, and then she was going to do it. No, listen, like I said, this is that shiny object syndrome. They got everybody over here, and they're all doing it. Over here talking and discussing whether or not Caitlin Clark is dominant. Listen, whatever you define dominant to be, whatever you, that's just that ain't even, that's just to distract you from them saying we absolutely blew it. We absolutely need to be eating crow right now. We absolutely didn't think she could do it. And so now we're changing the terminology to say that it's about dominating. And then you can't even get them there because now they're saying, well, that's not what I consider dominating. So what do you consider dominating? Listen, whatever you want to call it, Caitlin Clark is kicking butt in the WNBA. And she was doing it right away. Nobody ever said, nor did Caitlin Clark, that she would come in and score 40 a night. Nobody wants to do that. This is supposed to be a different level. So she has teammates that she can rely on. So what happens? She does her part, and she sets other people up to do their part, right? So the list, the accolades of Caitlin Clark in this season alone as a rookie is a mile long. It's a mile wide. It's as far as you can go, farther than you can see. Every time she steps on the court, she's breaking another record. She's setting a record. She's doing something faster than any other player, not just the players now, but the players who came before. Now, you may not want to call that dominating, but I'm really not going to go down that road because that don't really matter. What matters is that you got it wrong. And now you're trying to change the subject, and so many people are following them right along that trail and getting into the, is she dominant? Is she not dominant? Is she dominant? Is she, who cares what words you use? You know what it reminds me of? Cheryl Swoopes. It reminds me of Cheryl Swoopes. So let me help some of you understand something. You guys will remember when Cheryl Swoopes said that Black people couldn't be racist. And there are people who are still quoting that to this day. And they're saying, what kind of mess is that? Let me help you understand something that people, especially Black people, have heard for a very long time. Cheryl Swoopes is not the only person who's ever said that. You hear Black people say things all the time. Well, Black people can't be racist. What they mean by that, in case you've wondered, is they attribute that word racism to power. And so what they say is that a Black person cannot be racist because Black people generally don't have the power to oppress other people, and therefore they cannot be racist. So whereas we all know that anybody can be prejudiced, anybody can be biased, anybody can have hatred in their heart for anybody, what she did was she zoned in on the word and the meaning behind the word, as some people believe, meaning having power to oppress. So instead of dealing with the fact that it's not right for anybody to have those kind of ill feelings toward anybody, whether you're Black, whether you're white, whether you're Chinese or whatever, that part's wrong. She used the word racism, and now everybody turned away from the actions and the condition of the heart and started focusing on the word that she used. What we should do is turn it back around to the act and the condition of the heart. But that's what they do. That's what you do when you're used to running with the narrative. You fixate on a word and you get totally off topic. And that's what they're doing right now with Caitlin Clark, because they don't want to focus in on the fact that she's straight balling out and she's defied every one of their expectations. And so now it's, oh, well, I knew she'd do it, but she wasn't going to do it. I knew she was going to do it right after, right around after the Olympics. Right about that, that's when she started doing it. That's what I meant. Absolutely not before the Olympics, but right about after, she would just kick in right there. No. Gino Auriemma already told you. Gino Auriemma already told you. You're stupid if you thought she would come in the league and do what she's doing now. Caitlin Clark, no way she's going to be able to do that. These fans are dumb. Cheryl Swoopes, absolutely not. Not going to happen. And now she's done nothing but do those things they said no. So now, well, she's not dominating. And you guys are going right down the bunny trail. Guys, listen, if you're going to be in this fight, and when I say the fight, I mean the fight for truth, because it is everywhere. It's in sports, it's in politics, it's in business. It's at your local PTA meeting, PTO meeting, whatever you guys call it where you live. It's in your little subdivision, organization. The agendas and the narratives are out there. And as long as you keep chasing down those trails, you're always gonna get off track, and they're always gonna have you. They're always gonna get you. Stay focused. Stay focused. Come on, somebody. All right. Listen, if you haven't subscribed to the Adrienne Ross Show, I don't know what you're waiting for. Click the button, subscribe, and also have memberships. We got perks going on, and we're having a good time. So make sure you join the channel as well. Your support is always appreciated on the Adrienne Ross Show. And you know what? There's a game tonight, the last game of the regular season. The Indiana Fever will take on the Washington Mystics. I'm planning to go live. I know you're planning to go with me. Let's do it. God bless you abundantly, and I'll catch you next time. God willing.